There's the film The Princess Bride, which I watched recently, and the protagonist, Wesley is his name, and they take him to see a character played by Billy Crystal. They say, well, he's dead, can you help us? And he's like, no, he's mostly dead. And you know, in some respects, we, in the ICU setting and in our contemporary medicine, those lines are blurred extensively with what we do to prolong life and support life. And certainly in the, as soon as her heart began beating again, however, she's alive. But at what cost, or at what price to the rest of the body, is always your question.
Ashlyn Krell was moved from the emergency department into the intensive care unit. She was far from out of the woods, and for the next 12 hours, she would be fighting for her life. Dr. Robert Arnfield led the team that morning that steered Ashlyn through that harrowing first few hours.
We were facing what is commonly known as multi-organ failure, and where multiple, if not all of the body's organs are in some degree of inflammation or distress, and in some cases have competing priorities in what they may need at any given moment, maybe at the expense of other organs. There was no disputing that we were just full court pressed until we couldn't press any further. And she responded and began to have you know, lessening requirements. The intensity of the care was able to be, first it plateaued, and then we started seeing interval small improvements, that we weren't losing ground. We were starting to put the wheels back on the cart sort of very, very slowly.
The first responders who helped save Ashlyn went back to their regular routines. But in the following weeks, news of her recovery began to circulate.
And I get a text that says she's still alive, and I thought, that's remarkable. It's been 8 hours. And then sort of, we keep getting these texts, and still alive, still alive, still alive. And I thought, okay, you know, they've got her alive, maybe they're gonna do organs or something, I don't know. And then all of a sudden someone said, well, she's gave the thumbs up or smiled or opened her eyes. It was these little pieces. And I thought, that's remarkable. And then somebody said something like she opened her eyes and smiled, and I remember reading the text to my wife in the kitchen saying, I can't believe this. And I stood and stared at it. I read it over 3 times and thought, there's no way. And it was very heavy. It was a heavy feeling, you know, that emotional, it was a, wow, this is crazy. And then somebody said, she's got a great sense of humor, she's telling jokes. Like, she told a joke, and I thought, there's no way. And I thought, this is people wishful thinking. And then Susie went up and saw her. And it wasn't until I talked to him face to face in the office. He said, yeah, I went up and I talked to her. I said, there's no way. Like, I said, no, you spoke to her. Her mouth was moving. He's like, yeah, she was talking to me.
She was in her room with her mom and her sister and her nurse. And the nurse just said, oh, we're getting her straightened out. They were doing something, like helping her to the washroom or something. Give us a couple minutes. So I stood in the hallway with this bear in my hand. And the other nurses had heard the story of what's going on. So they started coming up to me and crying that I had brought the bear and I was coming to see her, and they couldn't believe her story. So I'm standing out in the hallway and they're getting emotional around me already. So it was preloading me a little bit to go in the room and meet her for the first time. Well, I walk in the room and it's a beautiful sunny day, and she has a view of downtown from her window on the 7th floor. She's sitting in her wheelchair in the corner with her mom, dressed, and welcomes me in. Hi, come on in. So here I am with this teddy bear, and I'm dumbfounded for the first time. I put my hand out and I went, I'm glad I get to meet you in person. Yeah. And then we talked for a couple minutes, and I actually welled up, and they welled up, and I couldn't hold it back anymore because I've only been on 6 years, but my experience was always negative. I never got to speak to somebody afterwards that turned around, like they always died. And I couldn't believe the conversation I had for half an hour with her, that there was no brain damage. There was, like, I was expecting the worst. Yeah. Going in and her just bright-eyed, you know, smile on her face. I was dumbfounded by the image I had of her at the crash. Lifeless, white. To seeing this, you know, pink-skinned, vibrant, positive, smiling woman sitting in a wheelchair looking at me like, come on in.
One day you hear she's awake, she's looking around. The next update, she's walking around. You're like, she's walking around. She's dead. She was dead. I saw her. She's dead. Now you're telling me she's walking around? It's unbelievable. And every text, every update you get, and then you get the update, she's leaving the hospital. She's cleared to leave. You're like, this is, and you know, I think it made the bond between the guys who were there like tighter because we kind of rallied around her.
4 weeks after the crash, Ashlyn Krell walked out of the hospital. Her recovery was seen as miraculous. There were a lot of factors at play. The cold water, perhaps the expertise that was at the scene, how quickly they got her to the hospital.
And moreover, some X factor about Ashlyn that we don't understand that has allowed her to survive meaningfully, not just in an organism kind of sort of survival way, but she's intact, as of course we all know.
But the professionals who saved her life say her story will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
This was a long shot. This was beyond a long shot. This was that miraculous, you know, this is like the game's already over. The clock has stopped. There's no time left on the clock, and you know, you're heading to the locker room and somebody says, oh wait, the commissioner of the league called and said they've reviewed a tape, you get another down, but it's gonna be 98 yards to the end zone, so if you can wrap it up or you can play the down. And then, oh wait, you know, and it just, by the way, your star player's out, but we'll bring in this guy. And so many things came into place, starting from the roadway. The fact there's a hole that rained all day filled with 4.5 feet of water, which is right in the middle of nowhere, that just happened to be the right size for that car. That, you know, the time and the place, the weird weather, raining, then flash freeze and you know, cold, and then the layer ice. All these things came to play. And then we get into the save, we'll call it, where you have the witness. And all those things, has a phone, stops, does whatever. I'm close by, whether I made a difference or not, but somebody's close by. All those little pieces came into play, and even then, you know, we did, the recovery from that situation in 22 minutes was really amazing.
There's a lot of emotion, a lot of emotion. I mean, this is something that you don't see often. We don't know the outcomes very often, and so to know and then to find out that she's making a recovery, you know, it's something that after years as a paramedic is inspiring, and you can start to wonder, you know, I'm away from my family for long shifts, I'm missing holidays with my family, I'm working, sometimes not getting a break because of how busy it is, and you know, you kind of wonder, well, what am I doing? What am I missing? You know, and then you have a call like this, and it just reminds you of why you do what you do.
This is a redeeming story. We love a story of redemption, and again, back to storytelling. And you know, a story with redemption is you know, those are our favorite movies, those are our favorite songs, those are, you know, and you know, there's not as much redemption in first responder world, or even in the ICU, or even in medicine at all, that you know, where you know, where things are restored to back to the way they should be. There's always so much loss, and our visions of, you know, surgery fixing things and restoring us to a new, you know, often there's you know, it doesn't always work out that way, and so for something to for all of those pieces to come to conspire, to come together, and to lift the morale of, you know, these officers and these medics, and you know, and our hospital team.
I'm not a religious person per se, but if someone else can explain to me how she survived, then I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came and visited us at the office one day. I'm looking at her, and I literally see a miracle in front of me. And I told her the first time I saw her, I go, the first time I met you, you were dead. And now you're standing talking to me. Now, that doesn't happen very often, or ever.